Welcome to Symplicity Conversations, the podcast where business, culture, and community come together to inspire and empower. I'm your host, Catherine Ripley. Each week, we'll explore meaningful conversations about how today's business landscape is shaped by innovation, relationships, and the people behind the progress. From actionable insights and stories from industry leaders to topics like customer experience, fostering strong business relationships, and the role of automation, we've got you covered. Whether you're an entrepreneur navigating growth, a leader focused on building lasting connections, or someone interested in how culture and community drive success, Symplicity Conversations is here to guide you. If you're ready to turn challenges into opportunities and make meaningful strides in your business and community, subscribe now and join the conversation. Get ready to simplify complexity and make an impact with Symplicity Conversations. Welcome to Symplicity Conversations, where we explore the intersection of business, leadership, and technology. Today, I'm joined by Shaughnessy and George Foland from RingCentral, the power team. Yes. We're going to discuss the landmark deal in the unified communication as a service industry. We'll explore how a major West Michigan grocery store chain transformed its communication infrastructure with RingCentral, the challenges of deploying at scale, and what it means for the future of business communication. But first, let's go ahead and start with our Symplicity Insights. This is our famous quote of the day, and I feel this one nails it. The art of communication is the language of leadership, James Hume. I love that. What a great quote to start us off because, wow, communication, it's the heart of an organization, right? Be sure to subscribe to Symplicity Conversations to stay updated on the latest innovations shaping the future of business and technology. So, George and Sean, oh my gosh.
We're here.
We're here. We did it.
We did it.
We did it. And, you know, we sold the largest unified communication as a service deal, not just in RingCentral, which, by the way, RingCentral leading the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 9 years, approaching 10, right?
Yeah.
9 years in a row as the leader in UCaaS, right? And we sold the largest deal in RingCentral. But I know that we've talked about this. We feel that we've sold the largest one in the entire UCaaS space with anybody who's ever sold. Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like we need to jump up and scream. But
I can do that if you'd like.
Yeah. Yes. Isn't that amazing?
It really is. And, it starts with trust, right?
Yeah.
Trust working with your partners in your ecosystem.
Yeah.
Trust with the opportunity.
Yeah.
You have nothing without that. You mentioned, our time spent as a leader in the Magic Quadrant.
Right.
There's that trust factor.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that was a big deal.
Yeah.
The way we approached this, we sat down and we were asked what's next from their current premise system that they had at the time.
Yeah.
I was asked what's next. And I said, I'll let you know. I kind of suspected what the right fit was, but we went through a 13-month process of what is next and why. We wanted to prove it. We really, without a doubt, prove it. And I love that we've got some great stories along the way, but we took what was considered the top 5 contenders.
Okay.
And without even diving into, we just said, here's the top 5. Looking at the Magic Quadrant, looking at the industry data, here's the top 5. 3 can't meet your needs. They're just not even, they're excluded. And the client agreed. They said, yeah, I'm tracking with you. So it came down to 2, and Dialpad was the second one. And what a great contender. What a great product that they have too. But they're kind of the new kid on the block, right? Right? Yep. They haven't been on the Magic Quadrant. And at the end of the day, when you really who's going to be the best partner, that Magic Quadrant really did come into play.
Yeah.
But you had a relationship prior to, with one of the stakeholders prior to, and that was really important.
Well, it was important to start the opportunity for RingCentral because I knew the VP from a previous life, which was great. You always like to have an existing relationship where they want to bring you in.
Yeah.
But then it was really about earning the trust of his team because while they knew RingCentral, they had some different ideas, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago when I first met them. So it was really about gaining their trust, introducing them to RingCentral, cloud, what that meant for them, what that meant for solving some really challenging use cases, which I know we'll talk about, but they were very focused when we first met on we need to solve, these 6 or 7 items.
Yeah.
And we need to take a legacy premise-based infrastructure to the cloud. And so they came to the table organized, knowing what they wanted to solve. And it was, really our job to gain their trust, let them know that they could count on us like so many other companies have, large enterprises have. So, and then fast forward probably a year from that when they really started to look hard because they paused for a while.
Yep, they did.
That's when we met, and that just greatly accelerated, everything because of your relationship.
Well, and Simplicity's focus, I'd been working with them for 8 years on some other areas and really had earned a lot of trust as well. They knew I was going to tell them good, bad, and ugly about anything because that's my job.
Right.
I don't want to sugarcoat something and say, this is going to be great. This is going to be hard. It took us 13 months to get through to the point of getting to signature. But, we really dove in as a team, and really helped the key stakeholder for us that was really driving up to the executives. We wanted to empower her with the data that she could feel confident that she was making the best decision.
Sure.
And I loved that. And something that you guys don't know that I'm going to share with you right now is...
A surprise.
Did you get, I want a car?
No. We just completed the last store Friday.
Oh, congratulations.
Last Friday.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of distribution facilities that they're working in now, but it's
fantastic.
It's really wrapping up. And this was
outstanding. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I might shed a tear here because it's just, you go into this and you take on this big deal. And we not only help them choose the product, but we implement it as well, which was a big undertaking. It doubled the size of my company. But we've got people that have been going out to, the first phase was 274 pharmacies within these grocery store chains. And, we did that entire chain within 9 weeks with only touching stores 31 days out of those 9 weeks. We had a pretty strict schedule of when we could show up and when we could be there and how we could do it. And I have to say the amazing team that I have at Symplicity, I can't name all their names because it took everybody. Everybody was involved, but they just did an amazing job at project managing and pivoting when we needed to. And, we brought some pretty big things to the table. And I want to share this example because I remember being out at a partner advisory council at Lake Tahoe with RingCentral. And you called me with the results, but we had a big challenge early on, which this particular customer used an extension for every store. I mean, they have almost 300 locations, right? Sure. And they use a 3-digit extension that RingCentral happened to use as their help desk. So anybody that has a RingCentral platform, they could dial this 3-digit extension and it would take them to your help desk. Well, when we came up on this and we were like, okay, you can't use that because RingCentral, I did what I do. Sean, go find somebody to tell me yes, because I don't want RingCentral to use that extension anymore because my client needs it. And I kind of thought that was a ridiculous request.
Well, it was a big ask. There's no doubt about that.
It was a big ask. But I remember you coming back to me after a couple of weeks going, Catherine, I've gotten 3 no's. I said, well, then you haven't talked to the right person because you haven't gotten my yes yet. And I was kind of teasing you through this, but I was very serious. Like we've got to find somebody that understands this is a big deal. And I was out at Lake Tahoe when you called me and said, Catherine, I don't 100% have your yes, but I think I'm 95% there. And I'm like, I remember feeling gobsmacked. I'm like, what? It was like an alternate reality. Like, what? You got the yes? How is this possible?
Well, yeah, and just so, and George, you can jump in on this, but just so everyone knows, we had to shift development resources from a really laid out, schedule in terms of what our developers are working on to continue to enhance the platform. And we always tell customers and partners, that development cycle is based on input from you and from customers. We just chose to take this input and make it go to the front of the line. And it went way up and got approved. And the development team was unbelievable. They knew it was for the largest deployment we've ever had at one time. And so it was all hands on deck. And it really, once it started, it didn't take too terribly long to deliver.
I think in the enterprise space, customization's important, right? It's not one size fits all. And I think companies really don't understand that. Our goal is not to find a different path for the end user, right? It's to take their input and make it work for them in their environment. And that's, I think, a prime example.
I know. And I love, it's just when I went back to the customer and said, hey, we got the yes. I remember her saying, you're kidding.
She's very appreciative, and I think a little surprised, like you were, that we actually came through with the yes.
She's like, Catherine, I can't believe you did that. I said, I can't either. But no, I was just like, this so reinforced why this was the right decision. And, there's always, with any kind of technology product, there's always things that come up. No matter how well you plan, things come up.
Always.
And it's like, and how you handle that. And I have loved the relationship that we have. It's a three-legged stool, right? RingCentral, the client, and Symplicity. And our job, I always say our job is to make sure that you guys do what you said you were going to do, right? That you're like, we're like a hawk watching and asking, and we know the language, and sometimes clients don't. And when, when you pick a product, you can pick the best logo. I don't care. You could say, I like that logo over that look. We're going to help you understand why you would choose that. But at the end of the day, we're there to make sure that everything stays on the rails. And moving that mountain where I actually was able to get you guys to do something differently for your routing of your help desk calls.
That's vendor versus partnership.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I say that to my customers. I say it to my opportunities all the time. I'm interested in a long-term partnership. I just don't want to be a vendor. Case in point. And it's interesting because what was built, even though we just finished the deployment, there was a pretty significant outage that happened in the last 4 weeks. And that was a real impact for RingCentral. You guys had like 60 months worth of no significant outages, right? And then we had a blip. That, because of all of the groundwork we laid, even though it was significant to this customer, they did experience that outage. They came back and said, nope, we trust you. We knew that you are going to learn from this and move forward. And I thought, again, speaking volumes to them, understanding that this is technology and things happen, but they knew that you would come back with a really great, here's how we don't want that to happen again. Because you guys really, to have your 60 months of no outages go back down to zero and start that count over, that was tough. That was a tough pill to swallow. It was, but back to the trust factor and our track record. And then I would say that outage will actually make us stronger.
Absolutely.
Which is going to be scary for the rest of the industry.
And that's what the customer knew. They're like, oh, nope, they're going to do this. Correct. So I think that those are the important things that we as partners in this really bring to the table. And some of the things that I love about this project, when we got signature January 31st last year, and we're getting ready to start the implementation. This project put us at number one agent in the world out of almost 17,000 agents. Yeah. We were number one for 46 weeks last year, just right at the end, dropped down to number two, but that's all right. There's the share.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But how incredible for my woman-owned business, right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that, this is the 19th year of my business. And in business, things always ebb and flow and change, and you're trying to, learn from failures. Mm-hmm. But to be catapulted to the front of the line and have people go, who is Symplicity? Like, what did she do? Right. Very, very proud moment. And then my diamond partner shirt here, which I wear with extreme pride. There's only 16, maybe 17 diamond partners in the world. And we're the only Michigan diamond partner. And what I tell my clients, why this is important is because I spend time with the executive leaders. I literally have a call with Akshay monthly where there's several of us that get together and say, what can we do to make it better? And they actually seriously, genuinely want to hear from our teams of what we can do to make things better. So I love that I have a voice on that team. Just being out in Napa at the Analyst Summit, being able to talk about, hey, we see this, and my team, if you could change this or tweak this, there could be things. And what I'm seeing from RingCentral at all levels, not just the people that I work with every day, like you guys, the executives, the product people, they're genuinely saying, how can we help? And they mean that. And I think that that's what the other UCaaS providers should be afraid of, is because you guys are saying, RingCentral and the people at RingCentral are focused on making RingCentral better. Yeah. But the people that are deploying it in the field come across more things. So you have to be open to getting that feedback. And so that's been my experience with RingCentral, is it's 1,000% a partnership. I love the relationship that my team has with you guys. And no matter what comes up, we can bring it to you guys and say, we need help.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, it is a great relationship. I think it's a incredibly valuable relationship that you have that is of value for your customers.
Yeah.
Right? They need to understand the impact that you have and the input that you give us.
Yeah.
And just like we listen to customers for input on product or for support or how do we get better, we obviously listen to our top partners. And it is something you should be proud of. One of 17,000 and then one of 17 is a huge deal. A huge deal for Symplicity. So
play next place.
Cool. I know. Like sometimes I pinch myself to go, wow, did this really happen? But, some people say, oh, you got lucky. No, I worked really hard to have good luck, right? No, I've really worked very, very hard, got a lot of no's over the years, had a lot of fail forward moments. But I think that just approaching it with genuine and authentic, conversations and how can I help? What can I do? And that's why I earned the opportunity to work, with this particular client.
There was no luck in one of the most complex, sophisticated buying cycles I've worked in my career. How many folks were involved in that decision?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, it was by the time the decision was made in the end of August and it went to legal and all of the signing, it was 4 months. Yeah. So that was a lot of decisions to not just the legal stuff, but once it was even approved on that, it still took a couple of months to reach all the desks that needed to sign off. So it was major. And I am so proud of the fact that I brought the right solution that is the backbone. I mean, voice and putting voice on UCaaS. And RingCentral has come out with some amazing products. And I always say voice is like the backbone. And then you have all these other products that you can plug in because you need to evolve that UCaaS solution, not just contact center, but need to automate things. You need to look at all these other things. So UCaaS is the first step, and then you just kind of take it from there. And RingCentral's done an amazing job. And we were seeing some of the cool products that were being presented in the Analyst Summit. And I'm like, oh, I just can't wait to solve these and bring these tools to customers, because it's going to help them be better. It's going to help them make better decisions with the information that they have in their network. And, with the previous products that they have for phone and contact center, they didn't have a really good way to look at data to say, what should we be doing? So I love that we're bringing that to them.
Yeah. And I think they recognize that, right? The foundational layer is now in.
Yeah.
Congratulations. The last store delivered. But now they can start to take advantage of things like, conversational IVA, right?
Yeah.
Using AI to understand what their customers are calling about.
Yeah.
Take that data and leverage it inside the business to make better business decisions.
Yep.
I mean, if you think about the interactions that they have on a daily basis with the customers throughout 6, 7 states, that's a tremendous source of knowledge for the brand, for business decisions on products availability. Right. And I think the next step will be deploying that technology so they can start to gather that data and harness that for, making better business decisions.
Well, and I think just like the product the events product that has really evolved,
Did you see that in Napa?
I did.
Nice.
And we've got it in our sandbox already, because we came out of it. And,
it's amazing.
like, oh my God, we need one of everything.
Yeah.
But the AI or AIR, AI receptionist. And, the product person was there. I'm like, I love it. AIR, AI receptionist, but receptionist isn't really a good descriptor, because I get what they're trying to say, the receptionist of a business, like it's the digital front of when you walk through the door and you see this receptionist, what would you like to do? But it's just automating the conversations and getting people to the right place. It's super cool. And even like the push to talk, think about when they have people delivering, the trucks come and people need to quickly, there's just so many
applications,
cool products. But let's dive into some of the questions we have, because we could just talk and
we could reminisce on that one for a long time, right?
We absolutely will. But
I can start. I was born in a small house in upstate New York. My favorite color is blue.
New York,
I like long walks on the beach.
So tell me a little bit about forward background, how you got involved in the UCaaS space and how you landed at RingCentral.
Sean, you want to go first?
Sure. So I have been in the industry, in and out of the industry, both UCaaS, contact center, networking for my career. And it'll be 5 years next month that I will have been with RingCentral. It was a great decision. Absolutely loved the time here. I've been part of the strategic accounts team now, obviously on George's team, focused on large enterprise. And I can't say enough of the people I work for. We've got a great team, but the extended team to, work with partners like Symplicity to deliver on opportunities like the one we're talking about. Not every company can do that, and certainly can't do it at the level we can. So really totally enjoy the time here.
Yeah. Same for me. A long time in the space, UCaaS, CCaaS, networking background. And when I was approached by RingCentral, I was like, gosh, what isn't there to love? I mean, you have arguably the best network in the world, tremendous leadership and innovation. For me, it's one thing to talk in a presentation about the application and present it, but it's got to be available, right? Yeah. It goes back to that trusted network, right? Especially when you're talking about enterprise accounts migrating to the cloud. So pretty easy decision for me as well. It'll be 7 years for me in October. And
very cool.
You're experiencing part of the culture and the care, right? And that's that partnership that works with our channel, and it works with our customers as well.
Well, and I have to say that RingCentral has made a fantastic decision and moved Kara into a president role,
tremendous
like female-led. Thank you so much for doing that. Whoever needs to hear that at RingCentral, and I said that when I was there with the executive team going.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting. And by the way, just for people listening, she's driven the product development for many years here.
Yeah.
She's always kind of been in the background.
Right.
But the brains behind the innovation, layering in AI, which started many years ago, right? Yeah. It's not just the flavor of the day for RingCentral. We've been using AI for 3 or 4 years inside the platform.
Oh, 100%.
And she's been a huge driver. So
yeah,
super excited to have her leading the company.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about what excites you most about the evolution of business communications, but digital transformation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I think for me and for the customers that I work with,
please take it down a notch. She's
large,
so excited.
Large enterprise customers. Okay, so the first thing I'm not excited about is the team. No, I would say, just our ability to set ourselves apart, right? And when you're competing in this market, you want to be able to set yourself apart. And we do that in so many unique ways, right? Yeah. Whether it's that trust factor, reliability, our ability to innovate, that makes it, a story that you really want to tell. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, where this is going with AI and what we've already done with the technology inside of the platform, I think that's going to be the distinguishing factor for many years to come. Yeah. We're already seeing it in the market. And you talked about what we're going to be doing next with this customer. It's all going to be around AI and being able to harness data that they have on their customers that they just haven't been able to access before and use that in a better way to make decisions, or from a customer care perspective, a customer experience perspective. I'm super excited about that, despite what my boss.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Sam, like education. How can you consume AI? How's it going to fit? How's it going to work? Are we going to implement it? Are you going to see the ROI on that? That's really exciting conversations. I think the other thing sometimes we lose sight of, and everyone thinks about healthcare and financial services, but there's a lot of customization we do specific to all our verticals, like retail, for example. And how AI and how our custom products fit each of those verticals is super important. So I'm really excited about that. I think we're about to enter another super huge growth phase as we continue to see the acceleration of adoption in the enterprise space. Yeah. I mean, we keep talking about the sale from last year, but there's many more behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that with all of the products, for a number of years, it was just UCaaS, and little features within UCaaS. Okay, now we can integrate with Teams. But there's like 6 major product that you guys have released recently that is just punching a hole and like, wow.
Yeah, sure is.
And I think it's the evolution of that, and as I think about the last time this customer went through a change, from the beginning to when the last store was done, it was 5 years to pick it and deal with it and deploy it in 5 years. Our project started in December of 22 when we were asked, what's next? And I said, I'll let you know, right? I was in a meeting and I'll let you know. It was 13 months, January 31st, when we got signature. So 13 months of a project where we just gathered provisioning data, gathered what they were doing, what they wanted. We created a mission. We created success criteria. And we just pulled all this data together, did demos of the top 2, and really kind of, they had, demo systems and we really dove into it. And then the implementation starting February 1st and to be done, in March of this year, a 13-month deployment. So we cut the time in half of a previous. And I think that speaks to, software platforms and that it's really expensive, the man hours to make a change, whether you're changing circuits, whether you're changing phones or switches, running around the bases to a lot of locations, and enterprise have a ton of locations. We have to make that easier. And you can make it easier. And did you know that we only deployed about 3,600 phones, less than 4,000 phones, when they bought a lot more than that before?
Yeah. Well, that was one of their goals. They wanted to move away from being a hardware centric and save that money, move to soft clients.
Yep. And they did.
To your broader point, it's the power of moving to the cloud, right?
Yeah.
That deployment time shrinks.
Yep.
And then they're really going to see the ROI once they start to take all those legacy systems offline.
Yeah.
Huge savings are going to come in there.
Yeah.
And then you think about the simplicity model of supporting, right?
Oh, God, I love thinking about the simplicity model.
I like what you did there, Sean.
See what I did there?
He's done this before.
So they're going to see how easy life is to support a cloud-based infrastructure versus what they had in place with multiple ancillary systems, servers, and data centers. All of the stuff that has now been simplified because of the RingCentral architecture. That's going to pay off. Huge dividends, Catherine, for that too.
Did we actually mention how many endpoints we're talking in here for your listeners?
40,000. 40,000.
Yeah, just to give a little context of time to implementation.
Did I mention it's the largest deal in the industry? No, in 13-month implementation, when it was much longer before, right?
Sure.
So think about the man hours that saved in just all of the network changes and, the staff being involved. We shouldered a lot of that. We actually went in and reprogrammed gateways that were handling, their analog. Yeah. So they have a ton of analog.
Yeah.
Phones still hanging on a post. So that's still okay. We can accommodate those. I think it's very complex, but the product that we have that we're working with is really flexible, and we can, sky's the limit when you're thinking about how do you want to route. And now we're getting to an exciting time of now we can start automating. We replaced so that we could have the data, because we didn't have data before. We didn't know how many calls were the analog red phones being made. Right. We had no clue.
Unknown.
If none or a lot.
Sure.
So we're getting into that phase now that we're done deploying, that we can start looking at things and saying, now what do we want to do? How can we customize? Maybe based on regions, because, if you have stores up in the UP and you have stores in Kentucky, they speak a different language.
Yeah, they do.
I'm from Long Island, as you could tell.
Totally.
So I'm familiar with different language.
That's right. Well, and if you think about it, you could have 2 feet of snow in the UP, and you could have, 70 degrees in Kentucky. So there's different products that need to be out. And so they didn't have a lot of flexibility to really tailor it to the region or to the market. So we know that we can do that. So what I love people to understand is when they move to a platform like this, that backbone, the next step is it's not just set it and forget it. It's evolving it. And that's a little different because IT people are used to just deploying it, and then I've got a contract, and then but no, you've got to engage. And now we need to start addressing the thousands of IVRs that are out there. And there's a better way to work with those. Yeah. And so this is the sexy part of technology, right? Of digital transformation is really getting actionable outcomes out of the data that you see.
Yeah. I think that will open their eyes and kind of reinforce the decision they made, right? So now they have the ability to take advantage of data that they didn't have access to before, harness that for decision making, improving customer experience. Yeah. And, what we did for the pharmacy is going to be exponential, what we can do for the broader business in terms of, making that customer experience just a more modern.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because number one, the pharmacy was pain point number one. We needed to solve, because pharmacy is a big part of their business and it's busy. And you can imagine talent turnover. But what was happening with the old system, you might have between 6 and 15 phones in a pharmacy. And the way it was set up is all phones would ring. Yeah. So they wanted a queue. And that was probably the number one feature that really distinguished from the other. And so we brought them a queue. And when we flipped the first few pharmacies over, the pharmacy staff was thrilled. They're like, what? So we went in and took half the room and said, let's plug these in and then let's forward the numbers and bring it over. And then immediately it was quiet. And then we always did this fun thing where we'd leave a bag of chocolates because I believe in chocolate. Chocolate makes life good.
Yes,
absolutely.
Right? Yes.
Right. So the pharmacy team was like, you brought us new phones, you brought us silence, you brought us chocolate. Yeah. And they're so busy. Like they are constantly, I mean, if you've ever, your pharmacy, you go there and it's busy and, people just, sometimes they're just feeling terrible. They just want their medicine and go. But to make that experience better, now think about some soft cost. If your employees have a better experience because they're not being driven crazy by phones ringing,
right?
Now they're going to be able to be in a better way to help clients and more positive. So employee experience is huge.
Technology shouldn't get in the way of the human experience, right? Whether it's internal or external.
Yeah. So we really saw because we have a process of, hey, here's when we're coming, this is when we're going to be there, and we have a pretty good process there, and they would come, they knew we were coming, and they were all smiles. Hey, come on in.
So,
yes, we're
so
ready
what's
for
really
you.
nice, Catherine, is the VP, right? When he goes to pick up his prescriptions, he asks, how's your experience been in the last month, last 2 months with the new environment? And everyone has just, had a smile on their face and said,
right.
Do you hear that? You don't hear anything, right?
Yeah.
So, making life in a pharmacy is crazy, right?
Right.
You got to focus on some very important workflows,
take a lot of calls.
and you take that busy work, that distraction out of it. I can see why they're smiling. And my wife would love the fact that they brought chocolates. That's the best thing in the world.
And it's good chocolate, Lindt chocolate.
There you go.
Like we bring the good stuff. Yeah. But no, I know that story that he tells about he went to his pharmacy to pick something. He goes, I got a question for you that nobody else is going to ask you.
Right.
And the pharmacist is like, oh God, you can imagine the questions that a pharmacist
That's fantastic.
gets asked.
He shared that
and he went,
us.
how do you like your new phone system? And the guy's
great.
like, oh, amazing. So yeah, it was fun for us. In deployments, let's just say they're not always fun.
Right.
Sometimes people are just like, oh, it's going to be a pain. It's going to change. So not everybody was open arms and excited, but the pharmacy, most of them were. And it's been really cool to see them adopt because it really is fairly easy. It's at the end of the day, it can just be a phone. Right? It's just phone.
That's all you wanted to do if that's what you needed to do.
Yeah.
But I don't want to gloss over the complexity of the deployment. From the number from scale, right? The number of locations, trying to minimize the times that you need to be on site for obvious reasons, coordination with the store directors, the back end technical integration to the legacy infrastructure. You guys did a tremendous job with that. And that is over 300 locations, 40,000 endpoints integrated into a back end legacy premise-based infrastructure to make sure that communication was seamless as you rolled things out was really amazing. So such a huge part of this was the ability to do this 13 months in a very successed way.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Well done.
Thank you. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Jessica Riley on my team, led the project management. I cannot tell you how many schedules she wrote. And it's not easy writing a schedule for that many stores, week 1, week 2, week 3, and as things change. But she was really, the leader of this. David Dykema is my Microsoft and technical solutions engineer. And we literally couldn't have done this without. And I just want to say, David, he's my cousin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
He is. And he started with me, Jeepers, 4.5 years ago. And last year, it would have been, it was during the process. He actually had heart surgery and we almost lost him. And I honestly believe that we did not lose him because he needed to do this project. He knew how much I needed him for this because he's made that much of an impact. Like Jess, the whole team. I've got some amazing rock stars, Andrew and Miranda and Tom, just there's so many people on the team, even people that may not directly touch this project. They were doing the work that those people couldn't do. So they were indirectly helping.
There's in my opinion, very short list of partners globally that could have had this successful implementation. And you're one of them. So congratulations again.
My gosh, my heart literally, I feel like, is bursting with pride because I'm so proud of my team for deploying this and pivoting and, so many things that you come across. Sometimes there's firewall issues that you're like, we know it's in the firewall, and it takes a while for people to get to that and solve the issue. But they were just troopers. And I said to Jess last week, I said, okay, Jess, I really want to do something for the team. I want us to, not just like, what can we do that we just go and say, jeepers, we have done it. We've deployed it. And there's still lots of porting and work to do, but you got to draw a line in the sand, and this deployment is done. And we are days away from that being happening. And I said, I just want to show my gratitude, because it's one thing for me to sit in front of the client at the beginning and say, this is what we're going to do. But executing is the hard part. Implementing a system is the hard part. And then making sure things bill properly and, how does that work and stay on budget? That's part of our role as well. It is a big deal. And I don't want to underscore the effort it took, because they deserve the light to be shined on them to say, I personally could not have done this and been successful without them working ridiculous amounts of hours on just making this happen. So
well, you said it was a company changing an event, and that doesn't happen with just one person or two people. It happens with everybody doing what they're supposed to do and going above and beyond. And they should all be super proud of this, because it was a huge success. The things that I've heard the customers say multiple times about how good because they were obviously, this was a big deal for them as well.
Yeah. Transformational.
Yeah. From our day-to-day contact, she's thrilled and up the line. So,
yeah. Well, and, again, we go back to the initiatives, right? People are trying to, executive team, they have initiatives, increase revenue, reduce expense initiatives. The VP has initiatives. He wanted to modernize and automate. We met his initiatives.
Yeah.
And we did it gracefully. We had a few blips, but we did it gracefully.
Sure.
Something to be proud of, even down to, the everyday people we work with. They have initiatives, uptime, things like that. So in all of the areas, I always say, if we can focus on making the people that we deal with successful, then they're going to meet their initiatives, because everybody's in a role.
Sure.
And you've got initiatives to meet. And if we can help you be successful, then that's building that relationship. It all comes back to relationship.
It does.
But we see that with your team and your leadership, Catherine. It's the culture you've created. And now that spills over to your customers as well and your prospects, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I work. I'm just such in a habit of saying we, but at some point I've got to say, this is my dream. I want a company where people feel safe to be who they are, right? They can show up as they are, but at work, we respect each other and work together, right? There's a lot of stuff happening in the world of, discriminations and things, but I wanted a safe place where people could show up and be who they are. And we've got this new office space that is amazing. Like, I literally got back from vacation Sunday night. I was up early Monday because I couldn't wait to get to my office. I just love it. And, I I want people to thrive, and I want to understand what success means to them so that I can help get them there. And that's my dream. That at the end of the day, no matter what, is I want to help clients, be empowered to be their best selves. I want everybody to know that we are going to, we're the dragon slayers. We've got our sword and we've got our shield, and we're going to attack, and we're going to do everything to help them meet their initiatives. And, whether it's approaching this large client, this biggest deal in the world, or just an everyday somebody needs a circuit, we're going to try to work as hard on all of that to make their lives better. And that's I think the culture that we've created.
The foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now we have just the dream of my office. Like the office that we have now is literally, I couldn't have sketched it out. Like that is where we're going to be growing as a business and being very proud of entertaining clients. And I can't wait till this Christmas when the office is decorated and when we have a holiday party there that we can say.
Yeah, it's a really special spot, and a great spot in Grand Rapids, and you've got a lot to be proud of. And as a dragon slayer, I know George is going to say this. We need to go find another dragon together to go out.
Yeah, for sure. Right? Well, that's I've kind of sat back and not knocked on a bunch of other doors because, number one, I don't have time. But it's true. We've got to say, can we show you what we did for this client and how we made that transition
What a case study you have, right?
Yeah.
That you can share now. I mean,
totally.
No better proof point in the market than to walk through what we've been talking about. Right?
I totally agree. We're going to have to do another one of these because we're running out of time and we have a dozen more questions. But at the end of the day, this first step, bringing this UCaaS to a customer can be transformational. But, the products that you guys are coming out with is just enhancing when you have that. But it is a partner. So we're actually developing our professional services department. And Jess is going to be leading that up of what's next, right? You need to automate. You need to look at the data and say, all right, let's automate these IVRs. Let's do it differently because the way it was done before, you don't have to do it that same way. There's automations that make things easier. And then you need reports to kind of help you understand what's coming. So I love that we're taking all the lessons of this big project and genuinely saying, how can we help? How can we do better? And so we've got a base of RingCentral clients that we're able to go back and say, okay, let's see what we need to do with the new products that RingCentral is bringing out so that it can enhance what they have. Right. And certainly going to other enterprise organizations saying, you're still on premise, let's just take those baby steps and start. And it's not as hard as you think it is.
And I think there's so much out there in the market around AI, right?
Yeah.
And it can be different things, whether that's on the front end and routing and customer experience, or that's helping a knowledge worker, right? Contact center is the focal point, but it's a broad technology that, at least for RingCentral, it's a thread throughout the entire platform. And so having partners like you that understand that so that you can talk to the use case for, conversational IVA and also talk to the contact center use case, it's super helpful for us. And that's what we're looking for in partners.
Well, and not only that, the contact center, speaking of those licenses for contact centers for some of the other big players, they're double the cost of what we can do on RingCentral. And, RingCentral deploying that CCaaS product and then all the other things that can enhance. Sometimes you can just find the one thing that you can solve. You don't have to forklift it. So it doesn't have to always be pull everything out and do this massive change. You can, let's enhance your IVRs. Let's fix these IVRs and start getting some wins, right? Yeah. Take a little small bite of the elephant. You don't have to eat the whole thing right away. Just
Agreed.
Small bites. And so that's where I think that Symplicity is going to be able to help customers really focus on how can I still believe you want an overall, here's my plan, here's my technology direction. But I'm gonna do it in little phases. Yeah. And
there's only so much change, like the organization we're talking about. Yeah. There's only so much change that they can absorb. And they look at it, right, through a very specific lens on where are they going to focus their time and their effort. Yeah. And so aligning with that is super important. I think we've done a great job there. Yeah. And we just have to take that to the next level with them. And,
agreed. Yeah. I'm excited to do that.
I was going to say the fact that we're going to host them at our corporate headquarters.
I know.
For executive business review.
Yep.
Capabilities and continue down that path that you just mentioned.
Relationship, right? Bringing them there, having them see that side of it. Meet the people that I met in Napa. That's just so powerful. And it's key steps, and that's what Symplicity really encourages. So as we're wrapping up, let's talk about maybe the biggest takeaway that you guys have being involved in this particular project, and kind of any big aha moments or lessons that you've learned.
For me, it was collaboration with you and your team. Like, we get it. I don't think our competitors sometimes get it. They'll talk about how they work with channel and channel harmony. What we had in this sales cycle was truly harmony, right?
It really was.
We over-communicated. We talked often. We shared feedback. That's a partnership. And I think ultimately the end user and the opportunity felt that, right? Yeah. To me, that was a huge takeaway. How do you work closely with your partner in orchestration in the best interest of the opportunity?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and I'd add to that two things. One, vendors like to focus on what they think the story should be. And here, I think our approach together was, this client had some specific things that they needed to be very confident they could fix, whether it was pharmacy, migration, legacy backend systems that would be around for several months. So the ability to listen to them, solve those problems first, and not get distracted by our own agenda. Yeah. I thought we did a great job there. And, secondarily, they didn't know us, right? We talked about, I had a relationship, you had been working with them, but our team, RingCentral, needed to develop some trust. And that meant spending time with them, getting in front of them, getting to know them, letting them understand that, they could ultimately trust this team to work with you to deliver. And I think that was where we differentiated ourselves, from the competitors.
Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway is, there's so many, but that the relationship between all of us, the respect and the trust and the caring, that we always had the end user in focus. It was never about us.
Never.
It was always about what is the right solution. And I suspected in the very beginning, sitting at that table, I could have said, it's going to be RingCentral. But I really held back. And even at the very end, after the demos, when I said, okay, what do you think? And she said, I think it's RingCentral. And I said, me too. And that was from a confidence of all the different little pieces that we learned. So practicing patience through this was very important. We have to make sure it's not about what we want. It's not about what you want. It's about what does the customer need, and let's keep that focus. And I love that we do that. I love that Symplicity really helps the client, because at the end of the day, they do have choices. They could choose not to, work with us, right? So it's adding value always. How can I help? What can I do? What do I need to disclose? What do I need to let you know so that you can make an informed decision? So I didn't ever say throughout, this is going to land here. I wanted the customer to really come to her own conclusions and be confident in those. And then when she said, then I co-signed and said, That's my feeling, and this is why. We compared our notes, and we were on the same page, and we haven't looked back.
Yeah.
And there's so many times, even in a painful outage, that we were able to say, this was absolutely the right decision. And that is, I'm very, very proud of that. So thank you. Thank you guys for being in the boat with me and on this journey and taking care of and caring about our customer as much as I do, because at the end of the day, that's what we need to be able to do. Is I want to be able to run into them in the grocery store and not be like, hide, oh my gosh, I didn't do the right thing by this customer. No, I just ran into somebody in the airport when I was flying back. I want to be able to walk up and say, hi, how you doing?
Right.
And be proud of that moment. And I know that there's a lot of other people that can't do that.
Say that.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
So I'm really proud of RingCentral at every level stepping up throughout this process. Every level. I know how many deep, because being at that analyst summit, and I would have somebody come up going, "You're the one." Yes, I am. Yeah, you guys gave me a voice, so thank you.
No,
Excellent.
Thank you.
It was a tremendous opportunity. Love working with your team and you. And it's great that we get to reminisce about it, because it was a special one. That's for sure.
It really was. And thank you for listening to Symplicity Conversations. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and visit us at thesimplepodcast.com to connect and learn more about transformative technology trends like the one that we experienced here today. See you next time.